Hello guys, welcome to my first video. Today I'm going to go over a few topics for my team, Sheffield United, which include our recent games against Wolves and Villa, both rumoured and completed signings, our fixtures coming up, which are looking very tricky, as well as our next game against Leeds. Starting off with the Wolves game, it was very disappointing to concede 2 goals in the first 10 minutes, especially considering how good we were defending last year and how many clean sheets we kept. And on top of that, it was also from a set piece for the second goal. I think the first goal was very well worked. They counter-attacked it very cleverly. Maybe Lundstrom should have fouled in the process, but the finish itself was unstoppable. Asai's header was very soft. Ramsdale possibly should have saved it, but considering it's his first game, I think we should let him off. After that, we came back well. I think Fleck and Lundstrom were good players for us in the second half. Showed a lot of energy in midfield. However, I think the fact that the McBurnie and Sharp partnership lacks a lot of pace meant that the game plan lacked the goal, and that's why we lost 2-0. Continuing with McBurnie and Sharp, I love both of them, like I said, but the problem is neither of them have blistering pace, and when you're playing with two up front, you need to complement each other in terms of your attributes, and they just have very similar ones. You know, they're both strong in the air, both good winning the ball in the air, but when it comes to playing with feet and running, they're not the quickest, and that's why I think this problem that Moussa is injured, because we need to be playing Moussa and McBurnie up front because they do complement each other in terms one has pace, one has strength, one's good in the air, one's good with his feet. I understand that doesn't work because he's injured, so it's just a question of him being fit sooner rather than later. I do think Sharp's useful in the team though. I did say I don't think he can start, but I do think he's a great player to bring on the pitch. I remember going to the Arsenal game at home last year where we won 1-0, and if we look at that game, the amount of free kicks and the amount of times Sharp won the ball was just incredible, and it almost won us the game because it stopped Arsenal from playing out the back, it stopped Arsenal from having any rhythm, and that's just what you need, especially for us where every point counts, especially at the moment when we've got a very tough run of fixtures coming up. There were positives to show from that game, and it was just a shame that we didn't get anything from it. However, I think us conceding 2 goals very early on in the game definitely has a connection with not having any fans in the stadium. As we know, we love to sing our anthem at the start of the match, and I think it gives the players a massive boost from the start. I'm not saying they're not going to play well this season because of us, but I think it definitely helps them on the pitch. Moving on to the Villa game, a very frustrating one. I think I came into the game hoping we'd get a draw. That was with 11 men. Once Egan got sent off after 15 minutes, I thought we'd lose. I'm a very ambitious fan, but I think Villa are a very decent team this year. They've additioned to their squad very well. The start of the red card, I personally think it was a red card. I know Jamie Carragher and Chris Wilder, to name a few, thought it wasn't. The reason why I think it was a red card, though, is because if you look at his positioning, he was the last man. He was making no attempt to go for the ball, and he had his hands over Watkins. I know people are saying Watkins had his hands on Egan too, but he had a lot less physical impact on Egan than Egan did on him, and I think that's why he got sent off. Now, moving on to the penalty, this is something I'm quite annoyed with, to be honest. Now, you could argue that Target should be sent off for this as well, because it's a goal-scoring opportunity once again. He, like Egan at the other end, is the last man, makes no attempt for the ball, takes the player out, and then it goes to VAR, no check for red card, only a check to see if it's a penalty in the first place. However, down the other end, there's no check to see if Egan should be a red card or not from the referee. For me, this is quite irritating, but things in football even themselves out. So in that sense, we've just got to move on. Decisions went our way last year, you know, like the Tottenham game where Lucas Moura shouldered it and it was a handball and got disallowed. The same with the West Ham game. So we just got to hope the same thing happens this year, and maybe on Sunday against Leeds something goes our way which shouldn't. So we just got to keep our heads up. However, I think there were a lot of positives in this game as well, to be fair. We played 75 minutes of the match with only 10 men, and I think we did very well. So in my opinion, the players which stood out the most for us were Basham, Baldock, Burke, Berg, and Padu and Lundstrom. Padu I was very impressed with. Looked very solid, didn't put a foot wrong. Wasn't much of a physical presence, but won every single thing in the air and looked very solid. If he continues doing that for us this season, I could see him being a starter for Chelsea at some point in the future. Baldock, another player I was very impressed with, made a lot of nice turns and skills, won a lot of nice free kicks as well to break up the play, and didn't put a foot wrong once again. Lundstrom, another player I was very impressed with. I think a lot of fans have been giving him criticism recently, the fact that they think a player in such an important position in our team shouldn't be given to someone who's not decided on his future for the club. However, when you look at how he did on the pitch, I don't think you can argue that he shouldn't be playing. He gave his all for the team. He played so well, gave so much. I know he missed a penalty, but at least he had the balls to take it. When we look towards the end of the game, you know, he's in their penalty box trying to attack and then ran all the way back to ours to block a shot off the line. It shows great grit, great determination, exactly what Wilder wants in our players. I just think we just got to hope he's going to sign the contract at some point this year. And we could argue the more he plays, the more happy he'll be and the more likely he is to sign a contract with us. Basham, a very similar performance to Lindstrom, in fact, that he gave it his all, ran non-stop the whole game, won us a penalty as well. I think he is another player which is going to be very pivotal to us this season. Berg, another one who looked very good against Villa as well. I think we can all argue in that defensive midfield role this season looks a lot more comfortable than playing as a sort of box-to-box midfielder as he was last year. I think as long as he keeps playing there, as long as his confidence is high, he'll keep on doing well. I'm glad to see he's using his physical presence more this year as well, because he was getting pushed off the ball a lot last year to very small players. And we've got to bear in mind, he's 6'5". He's a massive player, and if he uses any bit of that physical presence he has, he'll be a danger to any team this season. Moving on to Burke, another player who played great in the game. Didn't know anything about him until I saw that Villa game. Being compared to Bale on the pass is all I knew. He played very well, had a lot of pace, a lot of strength, and an amazing pass to Basham to win the penalty. I was very impressed with him. Lastly, moving on to the tactics. I think the tactics of this game were amazing. You know, we were 10 men against 11, so we were up against it. And every time we were on the break, we looked threatening and we made chances. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't much, but every time we were doing it, we looked like we could be a threat and won a penalty once in the process. I think we were just unlucky that things didn't go our way. You know, if that penalty gone in, it could have worked, but I think it was the most effective and most ideal game plan we could have gone with for that match. Moving on to the players that have signed for us, we'll start with Burke. Like I've just said, in the Villa game, very impressed. Possibly start against Leeds in my opinion. Owen Bogle, I'm sorry, I didn't see the Burnley game. I saw the highlights. It was an amazing cross by Blow. I possibly think maybe he should be playing in the game against Leeds rather than Stevens, but we'll see. However, it's good to see we've got some solid cover this season, as last year we only had Osborne as a left wing back cover and Kieran Freeman for a right wing back. I've heard from Derby fans that with Bogle and Lowe, it's similar to Kyle Walker and Kyle Norton. Now, apparently, according to Derby fans, Lowe is similar to Kyle Walker in that he hasn't played much for them already, but he's got a lot of potential. Whereas when it comes to Bogle, he's similar to Kyle Norton, the fact that he has played with them a lot, but he hasn't got as much potential as Lowe. Ramsdale, another signing for the club, made his second debut for the club against Wolves. I think obviously he hasn't had much time to acclimatise. You've got to remember as well, last year he was playing for a Bournemouth team which conceded a lot of chances, which meant that when he was playing in goal, he was very busy, which is good for a keeper because you're more alert. However, this season, he's probably going to have to be ready to play games where he's not going to have many chances to save, but he'll have to make the saves anyway. So it will be a lot harder for him this year in that sense. I think he will adjust, but we've got to give him time. I know Henderson was an amazing keeper, which is why people are panicking, thinking we've got a downgrade here. But I think as long as we give him time, he'll prove his worth. And then finally, Fotheringham was actually the first player to sign for us out of all of these players. I guess he'll be used as a sub-keeper. Came from Rangers, played against Burnley. Maybe should have bet for the goal he conceded. So, I mean, be decent cup keeper. And then moving on to our rumour, which is Brewster. I think this is a player which can almost finish us, can make us be the next level, make us be at least comfy for this season and progress even more next year. We need a pacey striker, especially since Moussa is going to be out for the next 2 months. This is a transfer which helps both us and Liverpool. We're rumoured to be paying around 20 million for him, but with a buyback clause included. This basically means it's almost like a loan, however we get a lot more profit from it if he does well. It's a win-win scenario for Liverpool, though, however, because they've got the funds to pay for him in the future. But now, if he joins us, he could improve, become an amazing striker in the future, and they get him back for a discounted price compared to other teams. On the other hand, for them, if he doesn't do well, then they've just made 20 million. They don't have to buy back a player who's turned out to be a reject. But I think it's a risk worth taking for us. Granted, he's only played 20 games for Swansea and scored 10 goals, but I think it's a good conversion for his first season of professional football. And I think it's definitely one we should take. The Leeds game, being the ambitious fan I am, I think we're going to win 2-1. It would be amazing if we could have fans for it. Be probably a completely different game in terms of the tempo. I think it'll be a very tricky game. They've conceded 7 goals, but also conceded 7 goals in 2 games. So it could be a very open match. If I had a choice, this would be my lineup. However, I think this is the lineup we'll go for. Right, guys, that wraps up my video for today. Let me know in the comments if you agree with what I've said or you think it's absolute rubbish. Also, let me know how you think we'll do against Leeds. Up the blades. Come on.